I know it's been a long time since I posted a video on this channel, but there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world, and I wanted to kind of check in with you. Jesus gave 2 commandments, and one of those was to love your neighbor as yourself. And a lot of people that I talk to, they have a hard time digesting this and really following through with this. Like, how can you love unconditionally every being that you come in contact with? And that's what I want to talk to you and share with you tonight. My own understanding on this. How was Jesus able to unconditionally love all beings that he came across? And not only, is this something that Jesus did, but this is also something that Jesus commands that you do as well, as if it is a duty of yours. You are held to this. So now what I'm going to tell you here, your mind is going to initially try to fight it. But I ask you to sort of just stay with me here and really try to just hear what I have to say. Jesus had no will of his own. Or, in other words, Jesus had no persona of his own. Jesus was his true self. But Jesus did not identify as Jesus. Jesus didn't walk around and be this proud thing that was holding this image of Jesus in front of everyone, right? Jesus was a very humble guy, but how was Jesus able to remain so humble with people even washing his feet with their tears? It's because Jesus didn't believe that he was Jesus. He did not identify as the person called Jesus. And this is evident, in his talks with certain people and certain things that Jesus said to sort of lead you to this understanding. When Jesus says, I and the Father are one. Does that sound like Jesus believes he is Jesus to you? Or when one of the disciples says, well, show us the Father, and Jesus responds and say, I've been with you for how long? And still you don't recognize me? Jesus didn't identify himself as Jesus. He was identifying in a place much deeper than the personality or the personal will, right? Jesus had no will of his own. He never had to make a single decision. Everything that Jesus did, he did without effort, without trying to do it, because there was no one there to try anything. There was no Jesus. Jesus relied totally on God. So for this reason, Jesus was never rushed and was never late or early. Jesus was always on time, no matter what. Even when the Bible describes Jesus as fleeing from a certain place, Jesus was never rushed. He simply wandered out of town and described this place of being with no personal will, or the personal will surrendered completely to God. One who has done this, their movement through life is described as similar to the wind, coming and going from here to there, not knowing where it's coming from or where it's going to. This is how someone moves that has completely relinquished and surrendered their personal will or identity. Not only did Jesus not identify as Jesus, the person, but he also didn't identify others as their personality. He was able to see beyond this shell, this idea that the person had built up around themselves that says, I am so-and-so and I'm this old and I'm from this city. Jesus saw past that and saw their true self, saw deep within them, their spirit, which is the same spirit that was in Jesus, that Jesus identified as. Jesus identified as this spirit that you could call God, or the Spirit of God. This is only possible by relinquishing the personal will, not identifying as this person, identifying as something much deeper than that, beyond just the body and the mind. After all, the mind and the body is simply observed or witnessed by the Spirit that is within you. And that is what you are, beyond the personal identity. Each of us, that same Spirit flows through each of us. And it's what you truly are. It's beyond form, right? Beyond the form of the body and the form of the mind, the ideas that you have about who and what you are. It's beyond that. There we are all the same thing. So it is easy from this point of view, from this perspective, to see others as yourself unconditionally. Jesus also said that to follow him, you would have to leave behind even your mother and your father, your wife and your children, so on and so forth. But not physically leave them behind, but leave behind all attachment to that person, to their personality, and see beyond that and relate to that unconditionally. And that's what's needed right now, you know. Anyway, man, hope you guys are doing all right, staying safe. Take it easy.